A ring of ancient stones holds a secret no one can fully explain. These monumental stone circles stand across our world, and their original purpose defies every clear answer. By the end, you will see these familiar landmarks not as simple ruins, but as portals into the minds of our deepest past. We are about to journey to 20 of these mysterious sites, from windswept Scottish islands to the forests of West Africa. We will explore why societies invested generations of labor to align tons of rock with the sun and stars. Was it for celestial calendars, for sacred ceremonies, or for something even more profound that we have yet to comprehend? This is a quest to listen to the enduring silence of the stones. What do you believe they have been trying to tell us all along? The morning sun crests the horizon on Salisbury Plain, its first light piercing the gap between two massive stones. For a fleeting moment, the central altar is bathed in a golden line, a phenomenon that occurs only on the longest and shortest days of the year. This is Stonehenge, the world's most iconic stone circle, and its silent dialogue with the heavens has echoed for over 4,000 years. Constructed in stages from around 3000 to 2000 before the Common Era, this monument is far more than a ring of standing stones. It is a profound architectural puzzle, built by a society without metal tools or written records. The largest sarsen stones, each weighing up to 50 tons, were dragged from local quarries and precisely shaped. Even more astonishing are the smaller bluestones, transported over 150 miles from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a journey that remains one of prehistory's great logistical feats. Why undertake such a monumental task? Archaeologists like Mike Parker Pearson propose that Stonehenge was never a solitary structure, but the heart of a vast ritual landscape. It may have served as a domain for honoring ancestors, connected by a ceremonial avenue to the nearby settlement of Durrington Walls, a place for the living. The alignment of its axis with the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunset suggests a deep celestial understanding, a giant calendar marking the cyclical rebirth of the sun. Some theories point to the bluestones being prized for perceived healing properties, drawing pilgrims from across Britain to a center of spiritual and physical well-being. Beyond any single purpose, the decades-long construction project itself may have been the ultimate goal, a unifying endeavor that forged social bonds across Neolithic Britain. Recent discoveries continue to deepen the mystery. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed a ring of massive, deep pits surrounding the monument at a distance, forming a vast boundary that likely guided ceremonial processions. Today, this legacy continues as thousands gather at dawn on the solstice, a modern pilgrimage that, while different in belief, echoes the ancient human impulse to mark these powerful celestial moments. Stonehenge stands as a testament to what a community can achieve when united by a shared vision. It asks us what drove them to such colossal effort, and whether its power lies in the answers we have slowly uncovered, or in the profound mysteries that stubbornly remain. While Stonehenge commands the horizon, just 17 miles north lies a monument of an entirely different character. Avebury does not stand apart from the world, it envelops it. An entire English village, with its thatched cottages and winding lanes, sits nestled within the embrace of the largest stone circle on Earth. Constructed over centuries around 2850 to 2200 before the Common Era, this is not a single ring but a sprawling complex. A massive circular bank and inner ditch, so large you could fit several football fields inside, encircle an outer ring of colossal sarsen stones. Within this, the remnants of two smaller inner circles hint at a layered, intricate design that may have once featured close to 100 individual standing stones. Archaeologist Aubrey Burl described it not as a precise astronomical instrument, but as a grand ceremonial theater, built for vast communal gatherings, processions, and rituals that may have honored ancestors or the cycles of fertility in the land. Its form feels more organic than the geometric precision of Stonehenge, as if the builders sought to monumentalize the very curves and contours of the natural landscape itself. This connection to the land is made physical by the West Kennet Avenue, a parallel row of stones that once ceremonially linked Avebury to a smaller wooden circle known as the Sanctuary, and further on to the immense, man-made Silbury Hill, the largest prehistoric mound in Europe. This entire Kennet Valley was a sacred landscape with Avebury as its pulsing heart. The site's long history took a dark turn centuries later. In the medieval period, many of the stones were deliberately toppled and buried, likely by communities seeking to dismantle the old pagan symbols. This act of erasure speaks to the enduring power these monuments held in the cultural memory long after their builders were gone. Some modern researchers and dowsers have proposed that Avebury sits at a convergence of so-called ley lines, hypothetical alignments of ancient sites said to channel Earth energies, though this remains a controversial and unproven idea. A poignant discovery from the 14th century Common Era makes this history tragically personal. During excavations, workers found the skeleton of a man crushed beneath one of the falling stones. Buried with him were the tools of his trade, a pair of scissors and a surgical knife, leading to his name, the barber surgeon. His story is a solemn reminder of the very real, sometimes perilous, human interactions with these ancient sites across millennia. Avebury challenges our definitions of sacred space. Does sheer size equate to greater importance? And how does our understanding of a monument transform when it is not a distant ruin, but a place where life has continued within its bounds for generations, where sheep graze between the stones and children play in their shadows? It suggests a spirituality that was not separate from daily life, but woven directly into the fabric of the community. From this sprawling, inclusive circle, we journey to one defined by astonishing complexity and precision. The stones of Avebury feel rooted in the living earth, but our next destination seems to float between water and sky. On a narrow strip of land in Orkney, the ring of Brodgar rises from a windswept isthmus, its remaining sentinels gazing out over the dark waters of the Loch of Harray and the Loch of Stenness. This is a landscape carved by ancient glaciers and meticulously chosen by Neolithic minds. Part of the UNESCO heart of Neolithic Orkney World Heritage Site, this circle was constructed between 2500 and 2000 before the Common Era. Originally composed of 60 towering stones, 27 still stand today within a vast, precise circle, surrounded by a deep, rock-cut ditch that isolates the site, making it a true island of ritual. Professor Colin Richards and other archaeologists describe it not merely as a stone circle, but as a late Neolithic temple complex, a destination for pilgrimage and profound ceremonial negotiation that drew communities from across the Orkney archipelago. The sophistication here is breathtaking. The circle itself is a near-perfect geometric form, and the individual stones were carefully selected for their shape and color, some brought from distant quarries across the islands. This was not a haphazard arrangement. Studies suggest its design incorporates sophisticated astronomical alignments, not just with the sun, but with the complex cycles of the moon and the silhouettes of the surrounding hills. Its meaning is amplified by its place within a dense ceremonial landscape. A short walk away stand the formidable stones of Stenness, and further lies Michaud, a magnificent chambered cairn engineered so that the setting sun of the winter solstice illuminates its inner chamber. The Ring of Brodgar was the grand public centerpiece of this sacred geography. Who were the people capable of such vision? The fine stoneworking, the coordinated labor, and the strategic, dramatic location all point to a highly organized and spiritually complex society. A clue to their ceremonial life was uncovered in the 1970s, when excavations within the surrounding ditch revealed fragments of cremated bone, charcoal, and broken pottery. These quiet finds are rare physical evidence of the activities that once animated this space, perhaps final resting rites or offerings that connected the community to those who came before. The choice of location itself is a powerful statement. Encircled by water and sky, the ring feels like a bridge between worlds. What did this liminal space represent to them? Was it a boundary between the living and the ancestors, or a focal point where the powers of earth, water, and heaven converged? One solitary stone, the Vendilfirth Standing Stone, stands apart across the loch, perhaps a silent guardian or a marker on a processional route toward the Great Circle. As the Orkney wind whispers through the gaps between the megaliths, the ring of Brodgar embodies a paradox. It feels both immensely powerful and eerily transient, a permanent monument built on a slender strip of land, forever holding its ground against the elements. It speaks of a people who sought to carve order and meaning into the very edge of their world. Leaving this water-bound sanctuary behind, we now travel to a circle forever entwined with the mists of Irish legend. There is a circle in Ireland that feels less like an observatory and more like a secret. The Grange stone circle, or Leo's na Grange, is the largest of its kind on the island, a perfect ring of 113 stones placed so closely together they form a continuous wall. Nestled in a quiet meadow near Limerick, this Bronze Age enclosure, dating to around 2200 before the Common Era, creates a profoundly intimate and private space. Its later name connects it to medieval monastic farms, but its true origin is a mystery of a much older world. A single massive portal stone, taller than the rest, marks a formal entrance, a threshold into a domain deliberately set apart. Archaeologist Sean O'Acute Newellane proposed that this was the circle's core purpose, to create a ritual enclosure that clearly separated the sacred from the everyday, a bounded space for ceremonies hidden from outside view. This design stands in stark contrast to rings like Brodgar or Stonehenge, which frame the open sky. Here, the focus turns inward. The contiguous stones form a solid barrier leading to intriguing theories. Was it a symbolic corral for sacred animals central to rituals, or a physical representation of a cosmological boundary, a man-made edge of the world where community rites could safely unfold? The circle's function is further hinted at by its alignment. The axis from the entrance through the center points toward the rising sun of the summer solstice, weaving celestial time into even this enclosed experience. A nearby burial mound suggests this was part of a broader ceremonial landscape, connecting rituals of the living with the realm of ancestors. Later cultures, baffled by the silent stones, wove their own explanations. Local folklore insists the circle is a petrified pagan wedding party turned to stone for their revelry. This charming story is a testament to the human need to explain the inexplicable, to fill the silence with narrative. The Grange challenges our assumptions. How does a circle designed to enclose and hide activity differ in purpose from one designed to frame the horizon? It speaks of rituals that required seclusion, of knowledge or experiences meant only for initiated eyes, transforming a simple meadow into a sacred room with a sky for a ceiling. From this hidden, inward-looking sanctuary, we journey to a monument with a gaze fixed firmly on the vast, open sea. On the remote Isle of Lewis, the stones of Callanish do not simply stand, they process. Their haunting silhouette forms a complex cruciform pattern against the vast sky, a central circle with arms stretching north, south, east, and west like a vast stone compass laid upon the peat. Erected around 2900 before the Common Era, this late Neolithic arrangement is a unique architectural statement. The local stone is Lewisian gneiss, a banded metamorphic rock that seems to hold the very striations of time within it. The central monolith towers over 15 feet, a silent axis for a design that feels both deliberate and deeply mysterious. Researcher Margaret Curtis and others have proposed a compelling celestial purpose, suggesting Callanish functioned as a sophisticated lunar observatory. The alignments of its avenues and rows appear to mark the extreme rising and setting points of the moon in its long, 18.6-year cycle, an event known as the lunar standstill. Tracking this slow, majestic dance of the moon would have required generations of patient observation, a legacy of knowledge passed down through oral tradition. For a Neolithic society, mastering this cycle represented more than astronomy. It was a form of power. Predicting the moon's most dramatic pauses on the horizon would have allowed a spiritual elite to demonstrate a profound connection to the cosmos, anchoring rituals, calendars, and community life to a rhythm far longer than a single human lifetime. The site's meaning deepened over centuries. A small chambered cairn was later built within the central circle, intertwining the monument with rituals of remembrance and perhaps physically connecting the lunar cycles to the journey of ancestors. Later folklore, unable to fathom such ancient intent, told of the stones as petrified giants who refused to convert to Christianity, a story that speaks to the site's enduring otherworldly presence. That presence is still felt today. Many modern visitors report strange sensations at Callanish, a feeling of magnetic pull or a tangible energy that science cannot yet measure or explain. Whether a trick of the wind, the power of suggestion, or something genuinely enigmatic, these experiences underscore the site's lasting ability to provoke wonder. Callanish asks us to consider time on a grand scale. Does a monument built to track a celestial cycle spanning nearly 2 decades ultimately serve to make a community feel timeless, a permanent part of a landscape that watches the moon complete its slow, silent turn again and again? From this cruciform sentinel watching the lunar sky, we cross the sea to encounter a circle that defies the very geometry we have come to expect. The stones of Callanish reach for the lunar sky, but in a green field in County Cork, another circle captures a very different celestial moment. Drombeg is a recumbent stone circle, a design unique to southwestern Ireland, and its purpose feels intensely focused. Dating to the Bronze Age, between 1500 and 800 before the Common Era, this compact, beautifully restored ring is anchored by its defining feature, a massive, flat-topped recumbent stone lying horizontally between 2 tall portal stones. This arrangement is not accidental. As archaeologist John Barber and others have noted, the recumbent stone is precisely aligned with the setting sun of the winter solstice. On the shortest day of the year, the dying sun would have been framed perfectly between the 2 uprights, sinking directly behind the long, low altar of the recumbent. This is not a monument to the sun's power, but to its symbolic death and the promise of its return. The recumbent stone itself is central to the mystery. Its flat surface may have served as a literal altar for offerings, or perhaps as a symbolic seat for deities or ancestors to witness this pivotal celestial event. The circle's intimate scale, only 30 feet across, suggests ceremonies for a select group, a community gathering in the gathering dusk to perform rites that ensured the sun's rebirth. Evidence of these rituals extends beyond the stones. Just a short walk away lies a fuelat fired, a type of ancient cooking pit. The presence of this feature hints at large-scale feasting, where the community might have shared a meal after the solemn observance, blending the sacred ceremony with the social bonds that held them together. A poignant discovery from the 1950s directly connects Drombeg to cycles of life and remembrance. Excavations at the very center of the circle revealed a buried pottery urn containing the cremated remains of a young person. This single resting place suggests the entire monument may have served as a memorial, a sacred space where the passing of an individual was woven into the annual death and rebirth of the sun itself. For modern visitors, the circle holds another, more subtle mystery. Some report unusual acoustic properties within the ring, where sounds seem to resonate or carry in unexpected ways. While not proven scientifically, this phenomenon invites us to wonder if the space was designed for chanting, oration, or music, using the stones to amplify the human voice during those long-ago winter ceremonies. Drombeg asks us a profound question. How does a community's deliberate focus on the darkest day of the year reveal their worldview? This alignment speaks of a deep, hard-won optimism, an active participation in the cosmic cycle. They did not just observe the solstice, they engaged with it through architecture and ritual, asserting their role in helping turn the wheel of the year from darkness back toward light. It is a monument of faith in renewal, built with stones that forever catch the last low light of the winter sun. From this intimate Irish circle focused on a single sunset, our journey now takes us to a sprawling, lonely complex that seems to engage with the entire cosmos. The stones of Drombeg hold fast to a single, precise sunset, but on the rolling borderlands between Oxfordshire and Warwickshire, an entire legendary saga is frozen in stone. The Rollright stones are not one monument, but a trio of ancient sites scattered across the landscape like pieces of a forgotten story. The King's Men is a rough circle of 77 weathered stones. The Whispering Knights is a portal dolmen standing apart, and the solitary King's Stone watches over them all. Built and used across millennia from the Neolithic into the Bronze Age, their original purpose is obscured by one of the densest veils of folklore in all of Britain. The tale is vivid, a king and his army petrified by a local witch, the circle his men, the dolmen his traitorous knights whispering in conspiracy, and the single stone the king himself, turned to stone as he took his final, fateful step to look over the hill. Researcher George Lambrick sees this not as mere superstition, but as a continuous, evolving narrative. For centuries, communities used these stories to rationalize the inexplicable stones, to claim and explain the landscape they inhabited, transforming pagan markers into a Christianized moral legend about pride and treachery. The stones themselves, made of soft oolitic limestone, have weathered into gnarled, almost organic shapes that seem to shift in the low light, feeding the imagination. This geology may hint at a practical origin, as the stones could have been territorial markers for grazing lands or seasonal meeting places for scattered farming communities, their distinctive forms serving as recognizable signposts in a world without maps. But the folklore is relentless and specific. Legends insist the stones cannot be counted correctly twice, that they go down to a nearby stream to drink at midnight, and that they are deeply tied to witchcraft and fairy realms. This belief was so potent it actively preserved the site. A recorded superstition warned that taking a piece of the stone would bring a terrible curse, a belief that ironically deterred local farmers from quarrying the circle for building material in the 18th and 19th centuries. This invites a deeper question. When does folklore become a valuable archaeological source? These persistent stories are not factual history, but they are a profound record of long-term human interaction. They represent a dialogue across time where every generation looked at these silent forms and wove new meaning into them, from spiritual cautionary tales to sources of supernatural dread. The Rollrights remind us that a monument's life extends far beyond its builders. Its meaning is never fixed, but is continually rewritten by every person who stands in its shadow and wonders. From this landscape saturated with legend, we travel to a continent where the stones speak a different, more enigmatic language. Across the Atlantic, in the heat of West Africa, the stones stand in silent congregations. The Senegambian stone circles are not a single site, but a vast constellation of monuments, with over 1,000 circles and tumuli scattered across a wide region of Senegal and the Gambia. Erected across an astonishing span of time, from around the 3rd century before the Common Era to the 16th century of the Common Era, They represent one of the world's most extensive and enduring megalithic traditions, yet the society that built them remains nameless to history. These are not the rough, towering monoliths of Europe. The circles, like those at Washoe and Kerbach, are assemblies of meticulously shaped laterite pillars, each topped with a rounded capstone, creating rows of silent, stoic figures. Archaeologist Hamadi Bakoum emphasizes that this is the largest group of megalithic complexes anywhere on the planet, a testament to a sophisticated culture that mastered the quarrying, shaping, and transporting of these massive stones across the landscape. The precision is captivating. The pillars were cut from laterite, an iron-rich stone that hardens upon exposure to air, using techniques that produced remarkably uniform cylindrical columns. These were then arranged in circles ranging from intimate family-sized rings to large public gatherings of stone, suggesting a social hierarchy mirrored in the architecture itself. Their primary function appears connected to remembrance. Many circles are associated with burial mounds, leading to the prevailing theory that they served as elite cemeteries. The stone rings may have marked sacred precincts, separating the resting place of honored individuals from the world of the living, or perhaps they represented cosmological beliefs, with the circles symbolizing the eternal cycle of life and the journey of the spirit. Yet a profound mystery deepens the silence. Unlike many ancient burial sites, these mounds typically contain very few, if any, grave goods. This absence makes social interpretation uniquely challenging. Were the builders expressing a philosophy that valued spiritual legacy over material wealth, or were the stones themselves considered the ultimate offering, a permanent and immovable testament to a person's status? This very lack of objects has helped preserve the sites from extensive looting, leaving the archaeological record more intact for modern study. The local Mandinka people, who have lived alongside these circles for centuries, maintain a deep cultural connection to them. They regard the sites as sacred places inhabited by ancestral spirits, areas to be treated with reverence and caution. This living tradition offers a powerful, continuous thread of meaning, even if the direct lineage to the original builders has been lost to time. It presents a poignant question: how does our approach to an ancient mystery change when it is not a forgotten relic, but part of a living landscape of belief? The Senegambian circles, recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, force a vital correction in the global narrative. They are a monumental African achievement, a sophisticated tradition of stone that flourished independently for nearly 2 millennia, demanding we look beyond the usual atlas of ancient mysteries to appreciate the full, global scale of our ancestors' drive to build meaning in stone. From the humid plains of West Africa, our search for circles now ascends into the thin, clear air of the American high desert. High on a windswept plateau in Saskatchewan, a different kind of circle is etched into the earth. The Moose Mountain Medicine Wheel is a sprawling pattern of stones, a central cairn from which lines radiate like spokes to an outer ring, creating a sacred geometry visible only from above or from the hills that surround it. Built by indigenous plains peoples, possibly ancestors of the Assiniboine or Cree, its age is a subject of quiet debate, with some estimates suggesting it has watched over the plains for 2,000 years or more. This is not a monument in the European sense, but a ceremonial site, a place deeply woven into the spiritual and practical fabric of life. Knowledge keeper Willie Ehrman speaks of such places as classrooms under the open sky, used for prayer, for vision quests, and for reading the movements of the stars. The wheel's alignments are precise and purposeful. Certain spokes point directly to the summer solstice sunrise, while others align with the rising of bright stars like Aldebaran. This was a celestial calendar, but one with immediate, vital application. Tracking these heavenly markers told the community when to gather for sacred ceremonies and, crucially, when the great buffalo herds would be at their most plentiful, timing the hunts that meant survival for the coming year. This site embodies a crucial distinction in how we understand the past. Archaeological study can map the stones and date the charcoal from ancient fires, but it is indigenous traditional knowledge that gives the wheel its breadth and meaning. The site has suffered from this disconnect. In the past, unauthorized excavations disturbed the stones, seeking artifacts and data but damaging the sacred integrity of the place. These actions were not just physical intrusions, but a profound spiritual violation for the peoples for whom this remains a living church. Today, that relationship is being carefully restored. The wheel is again used for ceremonies by indigenous peoples, a practice that transforms it from a static archaeological relic into a vibrant, living monument. This ongoing use presents a gentle, powerful question for all of us. How do we balance a scientific curiosity about the past with a respectful responsibility to the living traditions that give these places their true purpose? The Moose Mountain Medicine Wheel teaches that some stones are not meant to be merely studied from a distance, but to be understood through continuity, through the prayers that still rise from the central cairn at dawn. From this high place of ceremony and sky, our path now descends into the deep, shadowed forests of another continent. Deep in the forests of Romania, a circle of stones waits in profound silence. The Boian Circle is a recent discovery, a perfect ring of massive, unworked boulders hidden by ancient trees, and its age is what makes it truly startling. Archaeologists believe it dates to around 5,000 before the Common Era, potentially making it centuries older than even the earliest phases of Stonehenge. This places its construction firmly within the Neolithic Boian culture, a society of early farmers who were just beginning to settle the fertile landscapes near the Danube River. The circle itself is elegantly simple, a ring of large stones with a clear, deliberate entrance, suggesting a formalized space set apart from the surrounding wilderness. For researcher Callanish, this remote site presents a fascinating puzzle. Its location, far from obvious settlement areas, points away from a purely domestic purpose. Could it have been a territorial marker, a silent declaration of a community's claim over a newly cultivated land? Or perhaps it was a proto-observatory, a first attempt to formalize the observation of sun or stars by a society transitioning from nomadic life to the fixed rhythms of agriculture. The very act of creating such a formal, geometric space in the wild forest speaks of a need to impose human order on nature, to create a focal point for communal identity. Dating a site like this is a significant challenge. Without charcoal, bone, or other organic material trapped within the stone settings, archaeologists must rely on broader cultural context and comparisons with similar sites, a process that leaves room for debate. Yet, if the date holds, the Boian Circle becomes a crucial piece of evidence. It suggests that the impulse to build ritual stone circles emerged very early in the story of European farming societies, perhaps developing in parallel across different regions rather than spreading slowly from a single point of origin. This early date connects it to the broader patterns of the Danube Valley civilizations, cultures known for their sophisticated pottery and social organization, hinting that monumental architecture was part of their worldview from the beginning. What deepens the mystery is what is not there. Unlike many later circles, no associated artifacts, burial remains, or ceremonial deposits have been found. The site is clean, almost austerely so. This absence is itself a kind of message. Was the circle's power so inherent that no physical offerings were required? Or were the rituals conducted here so ephemeral, involving only song, movement, or spoken word, that they left no trace for us to find? To uncover more clues without disturbing the site, modern archaeology turns to technology. Techniques like LiDAR, which uses lasers to map the ground surface through dense forest canopy, are essential. They may reveal similar hidden circles, turning this solitary enigma into part of a wider pattern, a lost tradition of forest sanctuaries. The local name for the place resonates with a timeless human feeling. They call it the Stone Circle of the Old Ones. This intuitive label, born not from science but from tradition, captures the awe these structures inspire. They feel like a message from a deep, foundational past, a time of first principles. So what does this very old, very formal circle ultimately tell us? It suggests that complex social and ritual ideas developed with remarkable speed once humans began to root themselves in the land. The need to mark time, to claim space, and to gather under a shared symbol may have arisen almost simultaneously with the first sown seeds. It reminds us that monumentality is not a late stage of civilization, but often one of its first declarations. Leaving the shadowed forests of Romania, our search for circles carries us to a starkly different shore, a windswept island in the cold Baltic Sea. A stone ship sails forever upon a cliff. At Älvstena in Sweden, 59 massive boulders are arranged into the unmistakable silhouette of a great vessel, 67 meters long, its prow and stern pointed toward the Baltic Sea below. This is not a circle but a ship setting, a powerful megalithic form from the Nordic Iron Age, created around 600 of the Common Era. Researcher Martin Rundqvist sees this as the final monument of a powerful chieftain, a statement in stone that merges identity with destiny. In a culture defined by the sea, what more fitting memorial could there be than a ship of stone, a vessel meant to carry its occupant on the ultimate voyage to the afterlife? The symbolism is deepened by a profound celestial alignment. The long axis of the ship points directly to the rising sun of the summer solstice at one end and the setting sun of the winter solstice at the other. This transforms the monument into a timeless clock, forever linking the individual's journey to the eternal cycle of the sun. The effort was immense. These multi-ton stones were gathered from quarries over a kilometer away and hauled up the steep cliff, a communal labor that honored someone of great importance. Yet controversy lingers beneath the site. Some archaeologists suggest the stone ship may have been built over an even older Bronze Age ceremonial site, raising the possibility that this headland has been sacred for millennia, with each generation layering its own beliefs upon the same powerful landscape. Today, Älvstena holds a dual role. It is an iconic symbol of Swedish heritage, a place of national pride and historical curiosity, but it is also powerfully a living sacred space. During the solstices, modern groups often gather here for neo-pagan ceremonies, watching the sun align with the ancient stones just as their distant ancestors might have. This contemporary practice asks us a gentle question: how does a monument shaped for a final journey continue to inspire new beginnings? The stone ship is a narrative frozen in landscape, a story about departure, destination, and the hope of a voyage that never truly ends. From this symbolic vessel poised above the sea, we now journey to a circle that is perpetually embraced by it. Some monuments are not built from the ground up, but chosen from the landscape itself. On the windswept moors of North Yorkshire, the Brimham Rocks present a spectacle of nature's own architecture, where great outcrops of millstone grit have been weathered over eons into towers, mushrooms, and improbable balancing acts. Among these natural sculptures sits a grouping known as the Druid Circle, a rough ring of these weathered stones that feels intentionally arranged. This site embodies a fascinating category of ancient sacred space, what archaeologist Augustus Pitt Rivers termed a selected natural monument. Here, the human role was not the back-breaking labor of quarrying and transport, but the perceptive act of recognition. A community looked upon this powerful, pre-existing arrangement of stones and saw a ready-made temple. They may have simply cleared the ground, moved a stone or two to perfect the circle, or marked the perimeter, thereby consecrating a place that nature had already made awe-inspiring. This practice saves immense effort, but it reveals something profound about the ancient mindset. It suggests a worldview where the divine was not separate from the natural world, but embedded within it, waiting to be discovered in a striking rock formation or a commanding hilltop. The name Druid Circle is a classic case of later interpretation, a romantic 18th century label that projects Celtic priests onto a site likely used millennia earlier in the Bronze Age or Neolithic. That same era of antiquarian interest complicates the site's story, as some stones may have been subtly shifted or propped during a period of folly building, when landowners enhanced natural curiosities for the amusement of visitors. This blending of ancient curation and more recent modification makes it wonderfully difficult to separate the original intent from later embellishment, a palimpsest of human fascination. The site's enduring power is undeniable. For centuries, it has been a place of public wonder, legend, and simple enjoyment. A nearby feature, the rocking stone, is a massive boulder so perfectly balanced that a person can sway it with moderate pressure. Whether this was used in ancient rituals or simply inspired universal awe, it underscores the magnetic appeal of such natural marvels. This leads us to a quiet but pivotal question. When is a circle not built but chosen? The act of selection is itself a creative and spiritual endeavor. It implies a deep, collaborative relationship with the environment, where meaning is not imposed upon the land, but discovered in partnership with it. The Brimham Circle challenges our definition of construction, suggesting that the most important tool might not have been a hammerstone, but a discerning eye. From this curated ring where nature provided the raw material, we now turn to a monument of astonishing, human-made geometric perfection. A migrant people paused in their long journey to build a circle of stones. In the forests of Poland's Kashubian region, the Odry stone circles stand as a quiet anomaly, the largest such complex in the country. 10 distinct rings of glacial boulders, accompanied by nearly 30 burial mounds, were erected here not in the deep Neolithic past, but during the Roman period between the 1st and 3rd centuries of the Common Era. Their builders were likely the Goths or the Gepids, Germanic tribes on a great migration from Scandinavia toward the Black Sea. This context makes Odry profoundly unique. Here, a society on the move invested tremendous effort in creating permanent, fixed monuments at a time when stone circle construction had largely vanished elsewhere in Europe. Why would a nomadic people, presumably carrying all they owned, stop to arrange heavy, glacial stones into precise rings? Archaeologist Joseph Kosciuszki saw these as vital tribal gathering places. The circles, relatively small and arranged in a linear pattern alongside a river, may have served as open-air chambers for judicial matters, religious ceremonies, and social assemblies. In a world of constant movement, they provided a rare, stable point of community identity, a place where laws were spoken, disputes settled, and the bonds of the tribe were physically reaffirmed against the backdrop of the forest. Their function was intimately tied to remembrance. Excavations within the circles have revealed fragments of pottery and the cremated remains of individuals, confirming a direct link to funerary rites. These were not just meeting grounds, but sacred spaces where the living honored the journey of those who had passed, perhaps weaving the memory of ancestors into the very foundation of their temporary homeland. Some researchers note subtle alignments within the circles, possibly marking solar or lunar events, suggesting that even in this transient chapter of their history, the people felt a need to anchor their rituals to the dependable cycles of the heavens. The site's preservation within a protected archaeological reserve allows us to walk among these stones today and feel their quiet power. As with so many mysterious sites, later folklore filled the silence with its own explanations. Local Kashubian tales speak of the circles being built by devils or giants, a familiar motif that emerges across cultures when communities encounter ancient works whose true origins are lost. This enduring legend is a testament to the circle's lasting ability to stir the imagination. The stones of Odry pose a gentle, reflective question about the human spirit. What does it mean when a traveling people chooses to build something meant to last? It speaks to a profound need for a fixed point in a changing world, for a sacred geography that could be carried in memory long after the tribe moved on. These circles were more than ritual sites. They were statements of belonging, temporary but deeply felt roots hammered into the earth with stone. From these forest clearings built by travelers, our journey now takes us to a place of permanent isolation, where a circle was built not by migrants, but by people who chose one of the most remote corners of Earth as their home. The tragedy of a lost culture whispers through the stones of the Atlantic. On the island of Tenerife, the Guanche people built circles of dark basalt in isolated, elevated places, like those at Guargacho, long before Spanish ships appeared on the horizon in the 15th century. These are not the grand rings of northern Europe, but often intimate semicircles or clusters of stones, carefully placed upon the volcanic earth by a society that would soon face eradication. Researcher Antonio Tejera Gaspar sees in their placement and form a connection to astral cults and communal ceremonies, perhaps tied to the cycles of fertility in this unique island environment or to the veneration of ancestors, a practice underscored by the Guanches' known traditions of caring for their departed in caves. Interpreting these sites is a profound challenge, as the Guanche culture was largely dissolved following the conquest, leaving behind limited direct archaeological evidence and forcing us to rely on the often biased or incomplete accounts of early Spanish chroniclers. These fragile records suggest the circles, known as tagora, served as sacred meeting grounds where council elders would gather to discuss law and community matters, their stones forming a literal and symbolic circle of authority and tradition. Another compelling theory points to a practical celestial purpose. The island's isolated ecology demanded precise timing for planting and harvest, and the alignments of certain stones may have functioned as an agricultural calendar, tracking solstices or the rising of specific stars to guide the community's survival. This potential blend of the practical and the profound makes the sites especially poignant. For modern Canarians, these silent rings have become powerful symbols of a reclaimed identity. There is a growing cultural revival, a conscious effort to reconnect with Guanche heritage, not through conquest but through understanding, transforming the enigmatic stones from forgotten relics into touchstones for a people seeking to remember their deepest roots. This gentle reclamation poses a quiet, powerful question. When a culture's voice is silenced by history, how do we ethically listen to the messages left in its stones? The circles of Tenerife are more than archaeological sites. They are fragile bridges to a world that vanished, making every aligned stone and every cleared platform a precious word in a language we are still learning to speak. Their enduring presence reminds us that some memories are not stored in libraries, but in the landscape itself, waiting for a respectful heart to recognize their story. From these Atlantic islands holding fragments of a lost world, we return to the European mainland to encounter a circle that carries us back to the very dawn of this architectural tradition. The stones of Karnak do not form a circle, they form a procession on a scale that defies belief. Across the gentle hills of Brittany, more than 3,000 individual standing stones are arranged into a dozen parallel rows that march for kilometers across the landscape. Built by Neolithic communities over a 1,000-year period, from around 4,500 to 3,300 before the Common Era, the alignments of Manek, Comario, and Koleskan are not a monument to be looked at, but a pathway to be walked. This is a sacred geography written in granite. Leading archaeologist Jean-Pierre Mohan interprets this vast complex as a landscape designed to impress and control, a physical expression of power that would have guided and awed anyone approaching its ceremonial heart. The leading theory suggests these endless rows acted as a colossal symbolic boundary, a liminal zone separating the everyday world of the living from the sacred domain of the ancestors, whose burial mounds and dolmens often lie at the end of the stone avenues. The effort here was staggering, involving the moving and erecting of stones weighing up to 350 tons, a communal undertaking that would have defined generations. Some researchers see an intricate astronomical purpose woven into the alignments, with certain stone rows pointing to significant solar and lunar rising points, transforming the entire complex into a sprawling calendar under the open sky. Other, more speculative ideas have ranged from the stones acting as a primitive earthquake detector to serving as a reflection of social hierarchy, with different clans or families responsible for each line. The site's true understanding is complicated by time and modern life. Unlike isolated circles on remote moors, the Karnak alignments now weave through a living community, with stone rows ending abruptly at garden fences or country lanes, making it a challenge for archaeologists to perceive the original, uninterrupted design. This fragmentation asks us a pivotal question. Can we ever fully comprehend a monument that was meant to be experienced kinetically, by moving through its grand corridors over hours or days, rather than seen in a single glance from above? Later folklore, as always, provided its own vivid answer to the stone's origin. A persistent local legend claims they are a Roman legion turned to stone by Pope Cornelius. This charming story, though historically impossible, captures the awe the alignments have inspired for centuries. They feel like an army frozen in time, a permanent gathering awaiting a command that never comes. Karnak ultimately teaches us about the power of repetition and scale. A single standing stone is a statement. 1,000 stones in precise rows is a worldview, a deliberate, overwhelming imposition of human order upon the land that speaks of a society with a unified, ambitious vision for connecting their community to the cosmos and to those who came before. From this overwhelming linear landscape, we now turn our attention to a single, perfect ring that lies in its shadow. The sea has claimed half of a sacred circle. Off the coast of Brittany, in the Gulf of Morbihan, the stones of Erlanik emerge from the water only when the tide recedes, revealing two concentric rings that have been partially drowned for millennia. Dating to around 4,500 before the Common Era, this is a monument in dialogue with the ocean itself. The inner circle, with its 24 visible stones, stands as a haunting, aquatic gateway, a ceremonial site forever caught between the elements. Maritime archaeologist Serge Casson interprets this unique location as a specialized space, likely used for rites of passage, for honoring those who had passed on, or for making offerings to deities governing the sea, the land, and the sky. Its very architecture, a double ring, may have symbolized this union of worlds, a physical mandala where the boundaries between realms were intentionally blurred. The environmental story here is profound. Since the Neolithic period, rising sea levels have slowly encroached, submerging much of the original construction. This transformation makes Erlanik a poignant symbol of deep time, a reminder that the landscapes our ancestors knew are not static but constantly changing. Its periodic visibility, appearing and disappearing with the rhythmic pulse of the tides, amplifies its mystical aura, as if the circle only shares its secrets when it chooses to. Supporting the theory of its sacred use are discoveries from the surrounding waters and shores. Polished stone axes, finely crafted and showing little sign of practical wear, have been found in the area. These are interpreted as votive offerings, objects of great value deliberately deposited into the water or placed among the stones, perhaps as gifts to secure safe passage, a bountiful harvest, or the favor of ancestral spirits. Excavating such a site presents immense challenges, as archaeologists must work against the clock during brief low-tide windows, their efforts a race against the returning sea. This tidal nature connects Erlanik to a broader, sobering possibility. It stands as a rare, visible survivor of what may have been a common coastal tradition. Countless other stone circles, built along shorelines that Neolithic peoples inhabited, likely now lie completely lost beneath the waves, their stories silenced by the rising waters. This invites a quiet reflection. How does a monument's constant interaction with a dynamic, powerful force like the tide deepen its symbolic power? The eternal cycle of concealment and revelation mirrors the very mysteries it was built to contemplate. The cycles of life, the unseen world, and the transformative journey from one state to another. Erlanek is not a ruin frozen in time, but an active participant in a living landscape, forever washed by the sea that both hides and reveals its ancient purpose. From this tidal sanctuary, our journey ascends from the water's edge to the roof of the world. High on a volcanic plateau where the air grows thin, the stones hold stories in two forms. Mount Utasar in Armenia, rising over 3,000 meters, is a windswept gallery of the ancient world, where simple stone circles share the high ground with thousands of petroglyphs carved into dark basalt. This is not a single monument, but an integrated sacred landscape, used and revisited from the Bronze Age through the medieval period. The circles themselves are often modest, rings of gathered stone that feel intimate against the vast sky. Their power comes from their company, for they are set amidst a sprawling canvas of rock art depicting ibex, hunters, chariots, and intricate celestial symbols. Researcher Hamlet Petrosian sees this high place as a sanctuary used across millennia, a liminal zone between earth and sky where the circles likely marked precise ritual spaces for ceremonies, astronomical observation, or final resting places. The combination is profound, suggesting a complex symbolic language where the megalithic architecture framed the ritual action, and the petroglyphs recorded the myths, events, or spiritual visions that those rituals invoked. It is as if the circles were the stages and the carvings were the librettos for sacred performances held at the roof of the world. The extreme environment itself is a clue. Reaching this plateau requires a significant journey even today, indicating this was a destination for pilgrimage or seasonal use, perhaps timed with the movement of herds or specific astronomical events. The site's mystery deepens with the presence of nearby Vishap stones, ancient monolithic stelae carved with images of fish or dragons, which may represent water deities or protective spirits, adding another potent layer of meaning to this high-altitude spiritual complex. A poignant thread connects this deep past to the present. Local herders who bring their animals to these high pastures continue to regard Utasar with deep reverence, considering it a powerfully spiritual place. This intangible heritage, this unbroken feeling of sacredness, offers a rare continuity, suggesting that the essence of the site, its role as a bridge between the mundane and the transcendent, has been perceived for thousands of years. This integration of circle and carving presents a beautiful puzzle for us to contemplate. In a landscape where architecture meets art, which element is the primary text and which is the commentary? Perhaps the question itself is flawed. Maybe they are inseparable, two halves of a single expression, the silent, three-dimensional space of the circle giving context to the two-dimensional story on the stone, and the carved narrative giving voice to the circle's enduring silence. It is a reminder that our ancestors communicated in a multimedia language, using the entire landscape as their parchment. A stone with a hole becomes a window to a star. At Zorats Kara, also known as Karahunj, on a rocky plateau in southern Armenia, hundreds of standing stones stand sentinel, but it is their unique feature that ignites the deepest debate. Many of these basalt stones have smooth, artificially drilled holes near their upper edges, creating a forest of ancient telescopes or perhaps something else entirely. The age of the site is itself a contested mystery, with estimates ranging from as early as the 6th millennium before the Common Era to the Middle Bronze Age, around 2000 before the Common Era. This wide span of time means the stones could be contemporary with the earliest European circles, or a much later, independent expression of similar ideas. The central question splits interpretations into two compelling narratives: The first, championed by astrophysicist Elmer Parsamian and others, sees Zorats Kera as a sophisticated prehistoric observatory. According to this theory, the holes were precision sighting devices. By peering through a hole in one stone, an observer could frame a specific star, like the bright Sirius or stars in the constellation Cygnus, as it rose or set over a distant stone on the horizon. Key stones are also aligned with the solstice sunrises and sunsets, suggesting a calendar function that could mark the agricultural year. This view paints a picture of a society with advanced knowledge, mapping the heavens from this high, clear plateau. The second, more conventional archaeological interpretation views the site primarily as a vast necropolis, a city of the departed from the Middle Bronze Age. In this reading, the central circle and the many outlier stones mark burial mounds and memorials. The mysterious holes, then, might have had a practical or ritual funerary purpose, perhaps used to tether animals for sacrifices, to secure burial shrouds over the stones, or to hold symbolic offerings for those who had passed on. Its location on an ancient trade route supports this idea, suggesting it could have been a prominent memorial site for traveling communities to honor their lost members. Modern researchers are not content to simply debate. They are testing the observatory theory with technology. Astronomers and archaeologists use computer simulations to model the ancient sky, and then take precise on-site measurements with theodolites and other instruments to see if the alignments hold. This scientific process is a modern echo of the very observation the stones might have been built for, a long-term study seeking to decode a potential language written in stone and starlight. So how does a site that straddles the line between advanced celestial science and sacred funerary practice challenge our categories? It asks us if these purposes are truly separate. For an ancient society, understanding the cycles of the heavens was likely inseparable from understanding the journey of the spirit. Tracking a star's return might have been deeply connected to beliefs about renewal and the afterlife. Zorats Kera refuses to be neatly labeled, reminding us that the sacred and the scientific often emerged from the same profound human desire to find order and meaning in a vast, mysterious cosmos. Our journey now takes us to the far north, to a circle built under the midnight sun. Even in the stark, treeless expanse of the Arctic tundra, the stones found their circle. On remote islands like Soroya in northern Norway, simple rings of gathered rock stand against a vast sky, built by prehistoric hunter-gatherer societies as early as 5,000 before the Common Era. These are not towering megaliths but often intimate rings, sometimes found alongside the faint outlines of ancient hearths or the stone foundations of temporary shelters. In a nomadic context where every possession must be carried, the very existence of these fixed stone monuments is a profound puzzle. Why would people constantly on the move invest labor in a place they would soon leave behind? Archaeologist Brian Hood sees these circles as vital anchors in a mobile world. They may have served as designated ceremonial sites for seasonal gatherings, where scattered family groups would reunite. They could have been burial markers, creating a permanent memorial for individuals in a landscape with few other enduring signs. Or perhaps they had a starkly practical purpose, acting as secure meat caches, windbreaks for specialized tool-making, or platforms for drying fish, their circular form simply being the most efficient way to arrange stones for such a task. The effort itself is telling. In an environment largely devoid of large, natural boulders, even gathering enough fist-sized stones to create a distinct, formal circle required deliberate, communal work. This adaptation of the megalithic impulse to an Arctic reality is a powerful lesson. Without access to grand materials, the people used what the land provided, yet the underlying human need to shape and signify a place remained undiminished. Their alignments often speak to a different kind of mapping. Instead of pointing to celestial events, many of these Arctic circles are oriented toward prominent landscape features, a distinctive mountain peak, a river confluence, or a particular passage through the hills. This suggests a sacred geography based on terrestrial journeys, waypoints in a world understood through movement. A later tradition offers a poignant echo of this mindset. The Sami-Siidi sacred stones venerated into the modern era are not arranged in circles but are often singular, naturally striking rocks or outcrops. They demonstrate a continuous cultural thread in the far north, the attribution of spiritual power and memory to specific stones and places within the living landscape. This continuity invites a gentle, reflective question. For people living a life defined by seasonal rhythms and constant travel, what does a permanent stone circle represent? It may signify a rare point of return, a fixed coordinate in both the physical and the social world. It transforms a transient campsite into a remembered home, a place where the community, across the years and the generations, could reliably find itself again. In the silence of the tundra, these small rings speak of a deep human desire to create islands of permanence, to say, "We were here and this place matters." They remind us that the drive to build meaning from stone is not a luxury of settled farmers, but a fundamental thread in the human story, adaptable to the very edge of the habitable world. From these northernmost rings, our journey now turns to its final destination, a circle that returns us to the core of this ancient enigma. 3 stones stand in a lonely field, a broken line of giants. The Devil's Arrows near Boroughbridge are not a circle but a powerful alignment, 3 colossal, needle-like monoliths of millstone grit, the tallest soaring over 6.5 meters into the Yorkshire sky. They are remnants of what was likely a longer stone row, a deliberate procession of megaliths whose companions have vanished. Dating to the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, their name springs from a legend as persistent as the stones themselves, that the devil, standing on a hill miles away, hurled them in a rage to destroy a nearby town, only to see them fall frustratingly short. This story, like so many others, is a testament to the awe they inspired in later generations who could conceive of no human hand capable of such a feat. The true marvel, however, lies in the craftsmanship. These are not rough, unshaped boulders. As archaeologist Richard Bradley observes, they have been finely dressed, their surfaces carefully worked to create remarkably slender, elegant pillars. The skill required to shape such hard stone with only stone tools, and then to transport and erect these multi-ton sentinels with such precision, speaks of a highly specialized and coordinated society. Their alignment is the core of the mystery. Stone rows like this are often interpreted as ceremonial pathways, processional routes that physically and spiritually guided people from one sacred space to another, perhaps from a settlement to a burial ground or a river to a ritual enclosure. They may have functioned as vast sightlines, framing the rising or setting of the sun or moon on specific days, turning a walk across the landscape into a journey through cosmic time. The surrounding area, now largely farmland, likely held other monuments, mounds, circles, or enclosures that together formed a complete ritual landscape, making the arrows not solitary objects but powerful markers within a lost sacred geography. Their enduring presence is highlighted by the actions of those who came after. A Roman road was deliberately constructed to run parallel to the stones, a clear case of a later culture recognizing these ancient pillars as permanent, powerful features and simply incorporating them into their own system of order. This is a profound form of continuity where the meaning of the place may have changed, but its significance as a landmark endured for millennia. An 18th century engraving provides a poignant clue to what has been lost, for it shows not 3 but 4 devil's arrows. One stone has since disappeared, likely broken up for building material. This single absence is a quiet reminder that what we see today are often just fragments, the surviving pieces of a grander design that has been erased by time, agriculture, and human reuse. When we are left with only a few stones from a once complex arrangement, how much of the original vision can we ever truly recover? We can measure their alignments, analyze their geology, and map their positions, but the full narrative, the complete ceremonial choreography they once supported, may be forever beyond our grasp. The devil's arrows stand as a powerful symbol of this enduring fragmentary nature. They are a stark, beautiful line connecting us to a purpose we can only partially decipher, a monument that challenges us to look not just at what remains, but to feel the profound absence of what is gone. Having traversed the globe from the Arctic tundra to the Armenian highlands, we have stood before 20 monumental stone circles and alignments whose purposes still shimmer just out of reach. Each one is a unique expression shaped by its environment, its culture, and its moment in deep time. Yet, as we step back from this journey, a unifying question emerges from the silence. What common thread runs through the wild moors of Callanish, the flooded rings of Erlanic, and the lonely line of the Devil's Arrows? It is not a single purpose, for these were temples, calendars, memorials, and gathering places. The unifying force is the human impulse itself, the profound, cross-cultural need to create permanent meaning in a transient world. These societies, separated by continents and millennia, all chose to invest generations of labor in the most durable material they knew. They aligned tons of rock with the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars, not merely to track time, but to embed their community within the cosmos, to show they were part of a grand, orderly system. They built to honor ancestors, physically connecting the living to those who came before, creating a landscape of memory. They built to forge social bonds, turning the colossal act of construction itself into a ritual that unified people around a shared, awe-inspiring goal. And perhaps most importantly, they built to express a worldview, to impose a human geometry of belief upon the untamed wilderness, declaring through stone, "We are here, and this place is sacred." The true mystery, then, may not be the specific function of any single circle. The deeper enigma is this relentless, global creativity, this shared desire to answer life's biggest questions not just with stories, but with architecture, to make the intangible beliefs of the spirit visible and enduring in the physical world. These monuments defy clear explanation not because they are puzzles to be solved, but because they are conversations that never ended. They speak across time in a language of alignment, effort, and community. Our modern pilgrimages to these sites, whether for solstice celebrations, historical curiosity, or quiet reflection, are simply the latest turn in that conversation. We may never fully know what ceremonies were performed at the Ring of Brodgar, or what prayers were offered at the Moose Mountain Medicine Wheel, but in their enduring presence, they ask us to consider what we, as a society, are building today that might speak to generations 4,000 years from now. What are our values, our beliefs, and our relationship with the cosmos that we would wish to etch, not in ephemeral digital code, but in something as permanent as stone? The circles have no final answer, only an eternal invitation to look up at the stars, feel the weight of the past, and wonder. These silent rings scattered across the globe are a chorus of the same human song. From the windswept tundra to the African savanna, cultures who never knew each other's names all reached for the same solution, building circles of stone to answer the deepest questions of their existence. This startling convergence points to a shared megalithic mindset, a foundational impulse that emerged independently wherever humans settled and looked up at the sky. The common threads are undeniable: a fascination with celestial cycles, a drive to permanently mark the landscape, and a profound association with ritual, community, and remembrance. Why did this specific form speak so universally? Leading theories offer windows into this ancient psyche, suggesting the circles served as sophisticated astronomical observatories, sacred temples for communion with ancestors, colossal social projects that forged group identity, or territorial markers that declared a people's bond to the land. Yet each theory, while illuminating, feels incomplete on its own. Perhaps their true purpose was all of these things at once, a holistic expression of a world where science, spirituality, and society were not separate categories, but intertwined strands of a single rope. The choice of material itself is the first clue. Stone is heavy, difficult to work, and permanent. Selecting it over wood or earth was a deliberate statement about endurance. In a world of fleeting human lives and seasonal changes, a circle of stone declared an intention to last, to communicate with generations far into the future. It transformed abstract beliefs about the eternal cycles of the sun or the enduring presence of ancestors into a physical reality one could walk among and touch. This was not just architecture, it was philosophy made solid. Modern science is now our translator for this stone language. Technologies like LiDAR strip away forests and soil to reveal hidden patterns, showing us that what we thought was a solitary circle was often the heart of a vast ceremonial landscape. Archaeoastronomy uses software to reconstruct ancient skies, testing whether alignments were intentional or coincidental. Yet, for every mystery these tools solve, they often unveil a deeper layer of questions. Discovering that a circle aligns with a lunar standstill is one thing. Understanding the full ritual meaning of that alignment for the people who gathered there is another challenge entirely. The most compelling evidence for a shared human impulse is the phenomenon of independent invention. The stone circles of Senegal were not copied from those in Scotland, nor were the medicine wheels of North America inspired by the rings of Armenia. This is convergent evolution of culture where disparate societies, facing similar social and environmental pressures, the need to track time for agriculture, to honor their departed, to unify growing populations arrived at a strikingly similar architectural answer. This suggests that under certain conditions, the circle of massive stones is a natural, almost inevitable, expression of a community maturing and seeking to anchor itself in the cosmos. So we must ask, does the persistent, unresolved mystery of these places serve its own purpose? Their silence, their refusal to yield a single, simple explanation, is what keeps them alive in our imagination. A fully decoded monument becomes a museum piece, its story filed away. An enigmatic one remains a living question, a blank canvas upon which every generation can project its own wonder, ensuring the stones are never truly abandoned. This leads us to the ultimate confrontation their silence demands. If these circles represent a fundamental, cross-cultural human need to build meaning, what does their enduring presence ask of us in the modern world? Their silence is the most eloquent part of their story. After journeying across continents and millennia, from the flooded rings of Urlanic to the Arctic tundra circles, we are left not with a solved puzzle, but with a deepened sense of wonder. These 20 monuments stand as ultimate symbols of a shared human impulse, a testament to ingenuity, spiritual yearning, and a profound desire to etch our presence into the very bones of the earth. The key takeaway from this global tour is that their purpose resists any single modern label. It was likely a seamless blend of science and faith, of community and cosmos, of practical calendar and sacred theater, woven together in a way our specialized world struggles to fully comprehend. The overarching theme is humanity's eternal quest to find meaning, to ritualize our fleeting place within the vast, turning wheel of the stars. As the archaeologist Jaquetta Hawkes once reflected, every age has the Stonehenge it deserves or desires. We see in these circles what we are looking for, an astronomical computer, a temple of the earth, a gathering of giants. They are mirrors, reflecting back not only the brilliance of their builders, but also our own contemporary questions and theories about the past. So now, as the final stone is placed in our own mental circle, I invite you to reflect. Which of these sites resonated with you most deeply? Was it the intimate, enclosed space of the Grange Circle, the lonely procession of the Devil's Arrows, or the living tradition of the Moose Mountain Medicine Wheel? And what do you believe its silent stones have been trying to say across all these centuries? If this journey into the unknown has captivated you, please subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest enigmas. Share your own thoughts and theories in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation that the stones began. Thank you for watching, and remember, the past is not dead. It is simply waiting in stone, patient and enduring for those willing to listen.